son wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Oops.
Yes.
Welcome.
It's live.
Welcome to a green light version of
Oh,
Security Guy
yes.
Radio with Chuck. We'll fix it in post, Harold. And Paul?
I'm Tally Ho, Bristow again.
Oh,
I'm back to Tally Ho.
You're back. What,
Yeah, I'm back to Tally Ho.
you switched
Yes.
it to
Secret Squirrel.
Secret Squirrel the other
Yeah,
day.
well, it's because we was doing Secret Squirrel stuff.
You don't want it to be...
No,
Okay.
Tally Ho. Tally Ho.
Oh, how was your weekend?
Good.
Teeth are fixed?
No, still working on them.
Still working
Still
on it?
working on them. Yeah.
Is that why you sound a little
It's
quieter?
It's produced like a...
Sound a little British?
it's produced a little echo in my mouth. It's really weird.
I wish I had a British accent.
Oh.
Guess you're in trouble now a lot, actually.
Well, I finished my 8 videos for As Is,
Yeah.
but we
good.
had to interrupt the
Are they
broadcast.
all up?
They're all up on YouTube,
Oh,
so
right,
we should
good.
go to YouTube and look at that.
Okay.
I had to interrupt those broadcasts today, but we're going to broadcast 2 shows today. So we'll
Right.
do this show, and then we're going to do the As Is at 8 o'clock.
O'clock. Good.
Yeah, so people can tune in
Good.
for that. And go to YouTube, so you can
Yeah.
find
And
all
what
those.
is it, just an hour?
Yeah,
So that-
but we're going to
yeah.
find all the YouTube As Is things posted already,
All right.
so people can go see that.
Good.
Because
Good.
it's just too many shows. There's 8 of them.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So today, because it's still Domestic Violence Awareness Month,
It is. till the
October
end of
is,
the month.
I thought we would continue with that. And I found something very interesting last week on Twitter as I was tweeting our domestic violence videos, because
Yeah.
we have a whole playlist of those of experts that know what they're talking about. Mr. David Arthur Clark retweeted one of my posts, and I said, well, who's this young man? Let me take a look. He's a filmmaker, and it just so happens he makes a film about domestic violence. So I thought we'd have him on today to talk about that. Kind of interesting, and he's funding it through, help me out,
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. There's all those different ones. I
Yeah.
want to get it right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.com.
Yeah, so I thought we'd just have him on to talk about that. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of an interesting, a new angle, a little
Yeah.
more entertainment aspect to it. It's a
Yeah.
feature film. So welcome, Mr. David Arthur Clark. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
So that's how we came to meet each other, through Twitter. You retweeted one of my domestic violence videos or something, I think.
How many followers have we got now?
Oh, I think it's
Just to interrupt.
hovers around 15,000 or something on
good.
Twitter. Yeah. And
Yeah.
12.3 or something on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps growing. It's good.
Yeah.
So tell us about your background. I think this is a very interesting story.
Yeah. So, going into my background, I'm a military brat. My father was a Master Sergeant in the Air Force. Kind of lived all over the world. And my mother is actually Korean, and my father's African American. So I actually lived in Seoul, South Korea. I lived in Germany.
Wow.
In Frankfurt. Handful of other places here and there. Pretty much traveled across the world until where I actually landed and went to middle school and high school was a place called Newport News, Virginia. And,
Oh, sure. That's where the military stuff
yes,
is.
yeah. So my father retired, and he basically set up Ford in Virginia, and that's kind of where I consider, I guess, my American hometown before all the international places that I lived in. And I guess I appreciate that experience because I think there, I kind of lived in a lower income neighborhood. I went to a middle school that was actually in the projects of Newport News, and it's called the East End Projects. And coming from living over in Europe to then move to Virginia and have to make that big adjustment and
Yeah.
change, I think it made me the person that I am today, and I think that's why a lot of my efforts are seen in my Kickstarter campaign and what I'm trying to achieve with my film.
So what did you do after you got out of high school or went to college? And
Yeah, so I went to high school in, like I said, in Virginia, and then I actually went to art school in New York, in Brooklyn, at a school called Pratt Institute. I actually, a lot of people don't know, is I actually tried to major in film, and then I saw a lot of my colleagues graduate and go off and end up being waiters and waitresses and working
Yeah,
at
that's
Costco.
true.
And there's no offense to, because Costco's actually a great job. They have really great benefits. Not that that's a plug, but
we plug everybody on this show.
Yeah.
yeah. But basically, yeah, I realized I had to focus on something where I could make money because I went to a very expensive private art school. I was out of state. I barely got any financial aid. I got a couple grants here and there. But basically, like everyone else, I'm stuck with a lot of student loan
Yeah,
debt.
yeah.
And
And you're getting into the film business. That'll get you out of debt real fast.
and I just had a
Or get
daughter.
you in
and,
debt
and I
real
just had a daughter, so it's all perfect. Just trying to, be on the street. But So I actually majored in advertising, and I actually had a long 12-year career in advertising before I quit that.
Now, what did you do in
focus on
advertising?
film. I was a creative director. I started off as an art director. Worked my way up the ladder. Started very junior. I worked at some of the bigger New York agencies.
Now,
What was the most interesting project you
Just
worked on?
print or film or TV or what?
It was everything.
Oh, okay.
I started traditional TV commercials,
Right.
print ads, and then as Facebook came out, MySpace came out, I moved to digital, which I definitely appreciate because that definitely is helping me currently. But to answer your question, one of the most standout projects was something actually that I did recently for the Cosmopolitan Hotel of Las Vegas. It's actually a mobile app that you can download. It's a check-in app. Probably one of the most prized pieces that I've done in advertising. It utilized video and film.
Yeah.
And
Did you have anything to do with their commercials? Those are cool commercials.
didn't have too much to do with the commercials.
Well,
that
they
came
are,
in.
aren't
They
they?
are great
Yeah.
commercials,
Yeah.
but I had a lot to do with all the digital art display inside the actual
Yeah.
hotel. Every single hotel room has my interface design.
Oh,
and-
how interesting.
okay.
yeah, and then the mobile app is actually really cool, so check it out.
Yeah, that mobile app to actually be able to check in before you get there is something else.
Well, SPG
Vegas.
does that, doesn't it?
Well, it's true.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
I want to go stay
Yeah.
there just because it looks
Yeah.
cool.
It's very cool, and like I said, it's the
Yeah.
most beautiful work I've probably done in my advertising career.
So this has all helped you get to where you are today.
Exactly,
And you said, you know what? Screw these guys. I'm going to go do my own movie, basically, right?
yeah, I always wanted my own company. I started Filmic Pictures. I just formed an LLC and made that official. So that will be, the production company behind
And
the
when was
trees.
that?
What's that?
When was that? When did you form your own company?
I've been forming it probably since end of June, July, but actually making it official recently.
Okay.
And then you decided to get this idea. Is this your first film you're going to do?
This is my own, as a director and
Producer
and producer. And I've written scripts and optioned a few scripts to,
Right.
to Hollywood studios. But obviously, they don't let you direct any of those films. They won't let you touch it if you're
Yeah.
just a nobody trying to
Yeah.
get
They
in
don't
the
let
film
you
industry.
write it either.
Exactly.
Once they buy it, they
So,
rewrite it.
I forgot what filmmaker said this, but he basically said, "You want to be a filmmaker, make a film." And you're
That's
a filmmaker.
true.
Yeah.
You want to be a director, direct a film. You're a director.
Well,
you know,
Paul
so-
and I saw that in the 80s. Who were
Oh,
those
yeah.
guys that,
Yeah.
put movies on their credit cards and then the studio gave them a deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're on the right
That's
track,
what
just like we started a radio show. We don't make any money out of it yet, but maybe one day we will. But you got to just do it.
You got to
That's the
do
whole
it,
trick.
and we'll get into it more. But you got to take a risk. Like I said, I quit my career, very successful career. And a lot of respect goes out to people that I worked with over the years in advertising, and a lot of people who are actually my supporters on Kickstarter, are colleagues of mine who've seen me grow as a creative, and a lot of them are actually surprised. A lot of them probably didn't personally know that I was involved in film, but I've been involved in film my whole life. I mentioned
Well, if you're an advertiser,
Yeah.
yes, you would be, right? Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mentioned in another interview that I did that, I basically been into film since I was 6 because my dad had a substantial tape collection, and he had all the classics from
Tape? What's that again?
videotape.
Yeah.
Oh, videotape.
Videotape.
Yes, I
yeah,
remember
we're taking,
those.
taking it back.
We'll
I'm barely in my 30s, so I can still talk about videotapes. But yeah, he had all the Kubricks and Full Metal Jacket and
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby, like all those type of films that I watched at a very young age. But thank you, Dad, for ruining me, but then also helping me and enabling me to be a filmmaker.
All right, so you got this idea to start your own film company, and you chose domestic violence as a topic. Tell me why.
Yes. Chose domestic violence as a topic because it's something that personally I experienced as a man. And, you look at the media, you look at the news, you see a lot of men abusing women, which
Right.
is very, very, it's happening a lot. And we see it on the news. But as a man, and a lot of men don't want to admit that they were hurt or
Yeah.
abused domestically by a woman.
It's completely underreported, and our guests have
And it
always
happens a
said
lot.
they
Yeah.
can't get a handle on what it
Yeah.
is. Nobody really knows what that number is.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't because nobody wants to admit it. And,
Right.
And I was one of them. I had too much pride. I didn't want to admit that, I was dating a woman that would, try to swing on me or verbally abuse me, racial slurs and that kind of thing.
Racial slurs.
Racial slurs. Yeah,
Did she not have her glasses on when she met you or something? What was
I don't
it?
know. It kind of just happened overnight, but
No, let's go over that. This is interesting. Okay,
Okay.
so I come from a racially mixed family background,
Mhm.
and in the 70s, when everybody thought you were, holding hands and let's buy the world of Coke and flower power, that's not what was happening. Okay, because we were really put upon and
Yeah.
called names, and I was called all kinds of terrible names. But this is 2014. You just don't see this very often. And this is a recent event because you're a young man,
Yeah.
so you're talking about a couple years.
yeah.
All right, so let's give us
5 years.
give us the story. So you meet her, you start dating, and it sounds good, and then all of a sudden she turns into a racist.
Yeah, it really is that, I was just taken by surprise as well. It kind of just was like, we were dating for so long, and then all of a sudden,
How long did you date?
Probably a year and a half before this, this started happening, and it kind of was very.
Yeah, what race was she?
She was white.
Okay.
Yeah, she was white, and she had a lot of black friends, a lot of Spanish friends, and things like that. So it was weird for her to use certain words like the N word and certain negative connotations of race, and then go and befriend people.
Okay,
of the
so
same
let's
Yeah.
look at the angle.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the film, of course, because we got lots of time for that.
Of course.
But I'm trying to get to the angle on this domestic violence thing, because I think it speaks a lot about what your story is going to be about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she knows what race you are. Obviously, she likes you. She starts going out with you. What flipped the switch on her? I mean, did she use this? Because I'm thinking about Paul, our circle of violence or wheel, right?
Yeah.
How they start verbally and it escalates and so on. Was she using this as a control mechanism for you to control you, to put you down, and keep you closer, to push you away? I mean, what was the motivation?
The motivation actually was, I come to learn that she was actually in a very abusive relationship before me, where she was the victim.
Oh, interesting.
And she was, she was everything from getting punched in the face by her boyfriend at the time, and threatened that he would kill her if he ever were to break up with her. So I kind of started painting the picture. So I saw why she started lashing out at me, because she used to be the victim, and she didn't know how to deal with somebody who
You were
treated
nice to
right.
her.
I was nice to her. I was
So
a
she
nice
felt
guy.
you weren't paying attention to her, maybe.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
maybe she felt like
interesting.
I didn't love her because maybe I didn't show her that extra, unfortunately, that negative attention, which she was so used to. So so I think that I started piecing it, and right before we broke up, I basically said to her, I was like, you can't go through life like this. You're not going to have any friends. You're not going to ever be happy. And I'm a very forgiving person. I grew up, like I said, I grew up mixed. Like I said, my mother's Korean, father's black. I had a huge circle of friends. Like I said, I went to all black middle school pretty much when I was young in the projects, and I got acclimated with I got accepted obviously because of my skin color, but as I grew older, because I probably lived in European settings when I got to college, I was able to mingle and make friends with everyone. Any Indian, Spanish, white.
No,
didn't
it's
matter.
true. I mean, my half sister, she's half black, half white, and we talk about this kind of stuff all the time.
Yep.
She chooses to associate with her race, and she looks very similar to your skin color.
Okay.
You can't really tell.
Yeah.
But it's a choice, kind of, to decide how she wants to associate with black or white or both or whatever it is. It's very interesting, and people that are that way, I find, are much more balanced in a lot of ways. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
You have to be.
You have to be, because
You just are by default. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the best of both worlds. Really, it's very interesting.
Now, did your girlfriend actually get physically violent, or was
she,
it mostly
she
verbal?
definitely, there was times where she would drink, and she definitely swung at me. And as a man, when anything swings at you, you have to find a way to contain it.
Yeah.
I'd never.
Well,
put,
as a gentleman.
as a gentleman.
Unfortunately, I would probably not respond that way. It's a cop thing. You punch me, I'm going to punch you back.
Yeah.
Lady, sorry. Not right, I know. Don't send me an email. Or no, actually do send me an email. We want you to know
Yeah.
you're listening to the show.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
all right. So, I mean, we're not making fun, but we're not making fun.
So
because
using my martial arts techniques that I've learned, I was able to
deflect. Yeah.
deflect. But actually, going back to what you were saying about being racially mixed, and that kind of where the trees, as an overall setting and overall picture that I'm painting, I want to make sure that as a filmmaker, I have the chance to show a family that represents the actual diverse world that we live in.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of films, and this is I love movies. I go to movies all the time, ever since I was young, but there's always an imbalance. You go to I love black comedies, but usually they're way too many black people, and it almost feels unrealistic. And a lot of other movies, you see a lot of white cast. Where are all the black people? Like, there are black people every day walking up
true.
and down the
It's
street.
true. I mean, it's Hollywood is merely just a projection, reflection of the people that run it,
Exactly.
and it's not intentional or mean. It's just
And
it's their bubble.
I totally get it. I
Yeah,
totally get
yeah.
it. But as an independent filmmaker, I get the chance to come in and make it exactly how I want, which is the reason why I wanted to keep it out of the studio. I could have tried to sell this script as well, but I probably would have not been able to direct it again. And so I kept it to myself, and I brought my close friends with me, and I basically went to Kickstarter.com to raise the funds. And people have to know, I'm not trying to take money and not use it for good. I'm actually raising the very minimum amount of $50,000 to make a feature film. And everyone, if you know, films are very expensive.
Oh yes,
50,000
we're
sounds like a
both from the
bargain.
Studio industry.
Is that the break music I hear building there, Mr. Bryan? It is.
There we go.
What intuition I have.
Sounds like I'm on the set of Tron with this music.
Tron, you're not old enough to remember that movie.
Well, they remade it.
Oh,
so.
that's true. We're back in it with David Arthur Clarke and his Kickstarter project, The Trees. Back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. Welcome back to our special green light version of Security Guy Radio with Chuck. What was my nickname again?
I can't remember.
Well, we'll
That
fix
was,
it in post.
Green light.
No, green light, and Chuck will fix it in post, Harold. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Talking to Mr. David Arthur Clarke, writer, producer, director of the Kickstarter film project, The Trees.
Actor too.
Oh, actor.
I'm in the film.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
That's what happens on an independent film.
Follow us on, I'm reading the sign now, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Google+. And, of course, it's security-guy-radio.com.
I have a little thing. If you're gonna look up
Yeah,
Chuck,
well, I wasn't going to. I wouldn't.
Oh,
I
well,
wouldn't,
I have-
I
that-
wouldn't-
You have a little thing?
I
I'm
wouldn't
sorry to
push
hear
that
that.
too much.
Where's
we're a
that voice
family-friendly
coming
station. Anyway, if you're looking up Security Guy Radio on Instagram, you have to look up Chuck Harold because I just try to search you on there.
Yeah, I haven't gotten all those registrations. Now that you said that, somebody's going to go out and register Security Guy Radio.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get in a lawsuit about it. You shouldn't have told that secret, dude.
Well, follow him on Instagram at Chuck Harold.
Can I name drop real quick too?
Yes.
You can.
For all you guys listening for The Trees, go to facebook.com/The Trees Movie, and also on Instagram at The Trees Movie, and actually Twitter is also at The Trees Movie for any information.
See, he did it right. He got it all uniform.
Yeah.
All right, so
Shout out to Drew.
let's talk about the title.
Okay.
Right. We want to give the audience a little background on.
Sure.
First of all, why did you pick domestic violence as a topic when you could pick, vampires or
Zombies.
car crashes or anything? I mean, it's an unusual topic to pick for your first film. Tell me why you went with that.
Because I never was a vampire before, so I don't know.
Oh, well, no.
no.
Ask a stupid question.
Actually, I know somebody who's a vampire. But never mind. That's another question.
No. To answer the question, like I said, I wanted to choose something that's very personal.
Because of your experience.
From my
Okay.
experience, from my fiance's experience, and a lot of other people that are actually cast right now in the film.
Now, wait. Your current fiance had an experience.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Can we talk about that? Or is
Sure.
that-
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We can. No. She was definitely in a relationship where she was domestically abused. Maybe not as violent and as crazy as my stories.
So, by the way, don't ask me out because this is 2 for 2 you have now. That right? Is there a pattern? I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird.
Well, it's 1 in 4 women. So the chances are you got a 50-50 chance you're going to get somebody that.
That's actually a great statistic. That's very true.
Yeah, it's 1 in 4 that have been a victim. That's actually a 50% chance.
So I should play the lottery. I should play the
25%.
lottery
25%.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
With my odds.
So your current fiance, she had the similar.
Yeah,
issue.
and it's very, hers was not that extreme. But as as a woman, the idea of fearing someone that you love coming home or hurting you the next day, and that's something I touch on in the film, just the fear of turning the corner, the fear of waking up in the morning and having to face the person that you love that might push you or say something very mean. And people need to understand domestic violence and domestic abuse verbal is very hurtful. And, without actual physical violence, the actual words that you can say hurt sometimes more than knives.
Oh, it does.
It ruins you for forever.
It manipulates
Yeah.
you in the situation and stuff. So what's the plot about? Tell us what it's about.
The plot is basically about a mom who has a family of two daughters with the husband, and basically the film actually takes place after the domestic violence assault. So it takes place a couple days after she was domestically violated by her husband, and she basically has to put her life together while still being a strong mother for her daughters and trying to hold her whole life together, while her estranged husband, the abuser, becomes a vagabond. He basically travels out and into the woods.
He leaves the house.
He leaves the house. He escapes. He kind of loses his mind. He is an Iraq war vet who's suffering from PTSD clearly, and that's something I want to touch on as someone. I did a lot of charitable work for Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. We did a campaign called Make It Visible that was about wounded soldiers who suffered from TBI and PTSD. So I interviewed hundreds of vets, and I think that, to me, along with having friends who served, having friends who've died over in Iraq that I went to school with, or who committed suicide because of
you have some friends that committed suicide?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's how sad.
I do. It's very sad, and I channeled a lot of that emotion into the script, and I basically told everyone on Kickstarter, all of my friends and colleagues, that I wanted to cast real people because I wanted to showcase real raw emotion. I cast my fiance and our daughter in the film because I want to show real life mother and daughter synergy, raw emotion You know, as you see in some of the visual trailers that we shot.
So he leaves the character Chance Monroe. Chance Monroe. Not
Chance is
Well,
English.
Chance is cool.
I actually was using my British accent.
Chauncey.
Chauncey, you're right. So he leaves on his own.
Yes.
Out of what, shame or frustration, or he's wacky, or what?
It's a little bit of everything. So out of fear, obviously, of
Because usually they don't leave. They, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, he leaves out of fear of obviously what could happen with the law, getting arrested, and also because he's ashamed of what he does. He's not the abused type that beats her all the time. This is one of those one-time accounts.
He had a break.
Yeah.
And he realized it's self-aware.
And this is based on true stories and true accounts by talking to people that came home from the war.
Interesting.
So this is
So he goes out into the woods, into the trees.
into the trees, and
That's our title.
he basically becomes his war zone. He kind of channels Iraq in a sense, and being at war, and you know, he picks up handgun hunting and starts just shooting random animals and targets and almost to make himself feel at peace, because that's the last thing he really knows before he went insane was, you know, being at war and being a leader and having that sense of control that he suddenly lost as a man.
Oh, interesting.
Now, where is this set?
Was it set?
Where is it actually
So
set?
it'll be actually set in Southern California.
Okay.
We kind of in the script it's somewhere in Southern California.
Yeah.
But the actual character who I'll be portraying, Chance, is from the South.
You're going to play Chance.
I'm going to play
Oh,
Chance.
okay, good.
Yeah. He's from Virginia, where actually, like I said, I grew up. And my friend in the film, a supporting role played by London Durham, who was just in When the Game Stands Tall with Jim Caviezel. He will play my best friend from the projects. You know, we grew up together in you know, low income, low poverty setting, and basically he's an aspiring athlete. And that's something I wanted to touch on as well, because in the media we see a lot of athletes abusing their women who happen to be African American. So, you know, he's almost like the anti-hero. You know, he's almost like, you know, in some way he's a valiant protector in the script. So he's kind of like, you know, I'm almost embarrassed to let him know what happened. So he's trying to piece it together and make me admit what just happened. You know, and that's going to be a very important story for me to tell, because the film is supposed to go against stereotypes. It's supposed to go against, you know, what the media shows. You know, you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, you go on Vine, and you see all these videos with people making comments like, "Don't date a black dude because he'll beat you. Don't ever date a basketball player who's black because he'll kill you."
Well, it's kind of sad the media does it, because that's not what the facts are.
Yes, that's not.
It
well,
cuts
that's-
across.
But that's what the media does.
I know, it's terrible, because this kind of stuff cuts across all races and economic households, and
exactly.
it's just, you know,
So
it doesn't have anything to do. But, you know, I'm not interesting, right? But the basketball player is interesting, so that's going to be on the news. You know,
yeah.
What kind of research did you do for this besides the interviews? That's one part. But did you do any number research or fact research to?
You know, I did. I looked at a lot of the statistics. You know, I looked at people's views on professional athletes, people's views on rappers and musicians, and you know, you think about the Chris Browns, you think about you know, we'll take it back to, you know, dogfighting with Michael Vick, who's actually from my hometown of Newport News, Virginia. You know, you see the way that, you know, in the past, how athletes of color have, you know, done certain things, or, you know, musicians or artists have done certain things in the media, which causes.
Yeah, but I don't think it's isolated just to people of color. Do you?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think it's more prominent in the news?
I would say in the news, people are definitely taking that from the news, because it wouldn't be all over YouTube. It wouldn't be all over.
I never thought about it that way, really, because I'm from a racially mixed family. I don't think about race in my brain, right? But if you think about it, I guess most of those stories lean that way, I suppose.
But is it also a fact that, and I'm not sure if this is a fact or not, but are there more black athletes in those certain sports than there are whites? So
I think that's
the
a valid.
percentage
That's
has
a
got to
valid point.
be.
Well, it could be, I
You
suppose.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
unfair that
you've
it's
gotta get that
portrayed that way.
percentage.
Do you think there'd be some kind of, you know, other looks portrayed as well? But I can see your point. It makes sense that you're doing it from the perspective of what the reality and the perception is, because it's really one and the same right now.
Exactly, and that's why, you know, my character, who happens to be an Iraq War vet, is someone who is the abuser. And with my film, what I want to do is I want to do a character study. I want to show, you know, a lot of films focus on the victim, or sometimes it's just the abuser. But I want to do a story that equally shows the abused and the abuser, and what they're going through after such a violent act. And that's where I think my film will be different. It will be bold, and that's why, you know, for me, I want to premiere it at a place like Sundance. I think that's the audience that will accept the material for what it is initially before it goes to a broader audience, because it is gonna be a film that no one's really seen before. And I'm not saying that because I'm a filmmaker and I think I have the most original idea. It's not an original idea. There's been films about domestic violence, Hollywood films. There was a recent Idris Elba film that I saw called No Good Deeds. That was him being someone who abused women. But I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to show.
I just saw that film on TV the other day. Is that a new film or is that
a new film?
Did it go right to video or?
No, it came out in the theater. I don't know if they had some kind of VOD. They might have some kind of VOD deal as well. A lot of films do that nowadays. But in my film, it's I'll never once show a woman actually get physically assaulted in the frame. You'll never once see that. Instead, you're going to see the aftermath.
Well, imagination is always
and that's why I mentioned
Hitchcock,
Hitchcocks and the Kubricks in my Kickstarter trailer, is because I want to show that. I want to show the suspense. I want to show the aftermath. A woman that's been physically assaulted and what she looks like is more scary than anything. More scary than someone beating a woman on screen. More scary than a monster under bed. You're looking at real life horrors, and that's what my film is going to show. I labeled it more of a thriller, but really it's just a drama, because nothing is supernatural. It's all going to be real. It's just going to feel that way because it's terrifying.
Well, real life is a lot more
It's much more scary.
scary than anything, unfortunately.
Oh, there's our break music. We'll be back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Welcome back to Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Follow us on Facebook, and Facebook.
And that's facebook.com
Facebook.com.
/ the trees movie.
That's right. That's where we need to go.
Or you can go on Kickstarter.com and search for David Arthur Clarke. I should pop up.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, just in case.
Now, the name of the movie is
Brian,
The
why are you
Trees.
touching my camera?
It is The
Brian?
Trees.
The Trees.
Uh-oh.
Why are you touching my camera? I told you not to touch the camera because Mr. Brian touched the camera last segment and erased our entire show.
And actually, he just asked about the title. So really quickly, let me just talk about the title.
Yeah.
A lot of people were asking, why the trees? And actually, my fiance laughed when I told her the title because it sounded so generic. But now it's like paying off because people remember. It's very easy to remember. But the idea of the trees is it goes hand in hand with, domestic violence and domestic violence victims. You think about people who are abused and they're so embarrassed they never tell anyone.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest problem right now is no one wants to open up their mouth and say, the person who loves me is hurting me. The person who loves me is beating me. Because it's very hard. And I've gotten so many emails from friends, colleagues, and even strangers that are just, saying they're very moved. They've been waiting for an opportunity like this for a film to come out where they feel like they can relate to. And not like I said, not that there hasn't been films about domestic violence, but this feels like something that's very real and comes from the heart. And a lot of people have sent me emails about that they feel now that they're able to come out and tell someone. So they actually come out and tell me in the emails and Facebook chats and stuff like that. And like I said, the trees is a metaphor. Like I said, it could be, as kids growing up, we think about stories like Little Red Riding Hood and all these other stories where in the woods or the dark, scary area where you don't want to venture. So that's why the antagonist, Chance, actually goes, because that is his domain. That becomes his new territory.
Now, while Chance is out taking pot shots at jackalopes, what's the wife doing?
So the wife,
what's her side story or parallel story?
Yeah, so her parallel story, like I said, she's from the beginning of the film, she's already beat up, right? So she's trying to help her daughter get ready for a school play while also trying to run a bakery business. And she's actually trying to, like I said, live her day-to-day life.
By the way, is she the breadwinner in this family?
In real life, or?
Well, no. Well, I know that's true in real life if you're a filmmaker.
Yeah, if you're a filmmaker.
I'm a filmmaker. Yeah, I need a rich fiance.
That's right. But in the film, is the husband back from Iraq and not really working and
so that causes an argument.
Sure. But she has a bakery business. She's kind of supportive.
She actually doesn't have it yet. Her mother actually is ill and in the film, and she's trying to keep the mortgage up, and obviously she's struggling, and she kind of gets on the husband about not having a job, and
right.
Because my father is a perfect example of someone who served 27 years and he struggled to get a job, and the government gave him he was disabled, so they gave him some disability check, retirement check, but not nearly enough to make a living. No. And it's nothing against the U.S. government, but my film definitely touches on the fact that you have someone who came home from fighting for the country, and now he's struggling to take care of his family. So his wife has to do whatever she can to scrape, day to day, whatever type of end job she can get to take care of the family. So she kind of gets on the husband, kind of weighs on him, and basically throughout the film, while he's out in the woods, she's trying to take care of her family at the same time. Conceal the fact that she was just beat. Her sister in the story tries.
Oh, because it's the first time occurrence.
Exactly.
So she's trying to hide it.
She's trying to hide it. She's embarrassed. The local town sheriff, who's a family friend, basically is doing everything he can to get, to find this guy, because he's like, I told your mother, I will protect you no matter what. So he's like, he's basically he's basically Clint Eastwood back in the day. It's kind of like that kind of mentality. So basically,
how does she deal with this in the movie?
So
as a first time occurrence, is she in it? Does she go through the denial periods and all these justification periods, or is she just accepted? And because there are in reality there are different phases like that.
So in the story, she's still in love with her husband. She knows what he suffered through in the war on a personal level, but then so that's why if you see some of the trailers on the Kickstarter campaign link, you'll see that I kind of represent this kind of supernatural evil that starts transpiring around her home. And it's not that I'm trying to make it a sci-fi horror film.
Right.
I'm trying to show that she's paranoid. Now the person that she loved has placed his hands on her, physically assaulted her. So now every time she looks out in the woods, she sees him. And in the film, she files a restraining order against him. Her sister makes her do that, and now she's she's fearful of her life in a sense, because she doesn't want to go out and admit that she was hurt by the person that loved her. At the same time, she's now confined in her home, seeking refuge and kind of looking behind doors and looking out the window to make sure he doesn't come, because she fears not only for her life but for her daughter's sake.
It just has a big psychological impact on her, and not that she's imagining these things, but this becomes her reality.
Exactly, and I mentioned there'd be no CGI. There's no ghosts flying around in the film, but there will be really
any car explosions. You gotta have a good car crash.
It depends how many producers or investors want to jump on board.
Okay.
Kickstarter. We will have a car chase scene.
Do you actually get into the progression, before the assault? I mean,
or is it just kind of an onset, boom?
So I wanted to approach it where, boom, it happens, and we actually use fragmented storytelling, similar to Tarantino and Reservoir Dogs, and similar to a lot of other successful films, where we kind of take it back and we kind of peel the story back slowly, and we bring you into a woman who's battered and abused right away. And we bring you into a man who's now a vagabond in the woods, trying to find answers and using his knowledge of war and what he learned as a leader over there to see if he can pull his life back together. So we're paralleling these stories. Like I said, I want to do something interesting where you show both the good and bad of the abuser. He was a normal person at once. He was a loving father. You're going to see scenes of him being a loving father. You're going to see scenes of him and his wife in a loving relationship. There are going to be those, but then you're going to get down to the ugly. And like I said, I'm not going to show any. There's not going to be a scene of me hitting my wife in the film. I don't feel personally as a filmmaker. Not that I'm against other types of films that might go that route. I personally think I can tell a better story without showing the actual violence.
Well, it's an interesting way to start it, because if you think about it, does it really matter why she got beat up? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's no justification. It's just it's domestic. He snaps or whatever. So it is better just to kind of start with the aftermath and what led up to it. Is a prevention issue. You're going to deal with an aftermath issue, and if you can fix that part, then maybe it won't happen again. But it's a good way to start it, I think.
Oh,
telling the story kind of like you say, not telling it backwards, but kind of like starting with the drama and then figuring out what caused the drama.
Yeah, inserting little fragments here and there. Not so much flashbacks, but just little pieces that help tell the story.
Yeah. So what does she fear most? Another attack? Does she fear losing him? What? Because a lot of domestic violence victims, men and women, and I'll ask you this question yourself: what was your biggest fear when you're being abused by your other fiance? I mean, was she? You afraid of losing her? Were you afraid of her humiliating you? What was going through your head? Because you're a victim.
Yeah, I think it was just, as a personal, the way I felt at that time was just more so, it was kind of like how, why is this happening?
It's a why question, right? That's what I would
why.
think.
It's like, like what the hell happened that caused this? What did I do? And you start.
What did you do?
Yeah,
you asked.
you do. You do
Okay.
start. You do. When you're in love and you're in a relationship, you first thing you ask is, what did I do to deserve this?
Did you immediately recognize what was going on though? Or did it take the time to sort of
I did, but I ignored it, just like everyone else. I said, you know what, this is a one-time thing. It's not going to happen again. let that slip. I'll let
Yeah.
that. I'll give that a pass. But you know, because like you said, if you're in a relationship, and this is testament to domestic violence across the world.
Yeah.
After you go through such a thing, you're almost in a state of shock. It's like, well, wow, I've seen this on movies and I've seen this on the news, but never did I think that I was gonna have to deal with this.
Right.
So this can't be real. This has to be just something that will just go away tomorrow. But it doesn't, and it keeps happening over and over again. And these are the emails that I'm getting from a lot of the victims. They are being assaulted daily, and they wake up and they don't say a word. They'll say, maybe tomorrow will get better. Maybe next week. I know he or she loves me.
We've had victims on here, and the question we always
Yes.
ask is, why do you stay?
Mhm.
And it's been explained a lot of different ways by a lot of different people.
I don't think there is one. There doesn't seem to be one.
Doesn't seem to be, well, one theme I got
thing
out of
that
it
goes
was
through.
that you stay in the circle you're familiar with.
Mhm.
And it's much scarier to think I'm going to leave this house and leave this relationship and not know where I'm going than it is to stay where
And that
I'm.
was probably the most interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting answer. And then I'm going to
interesting
stay in the
answer,
circle that I'm familiar with and
Yep.
deal with the problem, because that's not as scary as, because it's a known problem, right?
Yep.
I understand it being abused,
Yep.
as opposed to like leave and be financially destitute or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think I would just leave. I'm already financially
well,
destitute, so I don't really it wouldn't matter. I'm only half kidding, but I mean,
Yep.
your physical well-being is so important, and I guess it's such a shock if somebody.
But something
that
that was
to you.
interesting that you just said. I mean, I don't think we've ever had anybody say, they really thought it was a one-off issue.
No, I can't.
I can't remember anybody ever saying that.
No, because
before.
I think what happens is before it turns physical, it gradually builds
Mhm.
into
Yeah.
it's verbal, then it turns physical.
Yeah.
Yours is just kind of like a snap and a boom, and I'm getting punched.
Yep.
Which may be more confusing for your victim / character to understand than something that builds up. You can kind of see it coming, but you deny it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, we just opened up with her being beat up, and it was just kind of an explosion on his part, and then
Yep.
she has to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's a lot different way to deal with it.
Yeah, kind of like a real life turn of events, and that's where I wanted to capture as much reality as I can.
Yeah.
And to me, just like in real life, boom, you're hit or you're abused. What next? And that's what my film is about. It's about that. What happens now? Like this really just happened, and where are we going to go from here as a family? As think about what a family means. You're a unit. And then to have something interrupt that unit is probably one of the most heartbreaking things that can happen.
Yeah.
Happy ending. Hollywood
You
likes
can't-
happy
you can't tell
endings.
the ending.
I can't tell the ending.
No, you're not telling me. It's just happy or not happy. People love happy endings. Even if it's a
plead the
terrible
fifth.
story. Well, listen, we have the break music. You're safe. You don't have to answer that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Kickstarter campaign. I want to
Okay.
hear about the characters in the film, who's starring,
Okay.
and how we can get some money for you guys to get this movie made.
Sounds
All
good.
right, back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's SecurityGuyRadio.com.
Huddle up a little closer, lovey mine.
How you do? Thanks for coming along. Won't you come with me and you won't be alone? So come on, no one has to know. Step inside, yes, we got what you need. All the pretty monsters are fresh on the scene. So go on, let it show. When the lights come down and our kingdom has a crown, and we all come out to here come the lonely ones. One touch will leave you stunned.
Welcome back to Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Google+. Do not forget Google+. Google are our friends. No, if you're on... By the way, you might want to think about this, David. If you're on Google+, and you post regularly and you have a page, Google puts your index at the top of the pile. And you don't have to do Google ad campaigns.
I love that.
Well, because it helps promote them, right? So if you type in my name, if you type in Chuck Harold, boom, I'm right at the top of everything because I use Google+. So it's effective. It's not as big as Facebook yet, but I think it's going to be there. Just an idea. Anyway, let's talk about Kickstarter because I've been kind of kicking around, Paul and I, the old idea of a Security Guy TV, maybe doing a news magazine. And Kickstarter.
TV faces?
Well, we have faces for radio, but I have a voice for TV, I think. And tell us why Kickstarter, how it works. Well, why it seems like a great idea. With Kickstarter, people are giving you money; they're not investing it. In other words, you don't have to pay it back because if you did that, you'd have to have all these Security Exchange Commission filings and so on, right? So these are kind of like people that say, you know what, I'd like to see that made. Here's some money. Yeah. Tell us about it, and how we can contribute and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And really quick, just to say that. So, on a lot of Kickstarter campaigns for films, people offer things like associate producer or executive producer credit.
Right.
So, in that event, if that happens, and obviously you can discuss, profit shares and film shares and points and stuff like that. But there are those options. But yeah, so Kickstarter.com. So initially, I was going to shoot this film with a Canon DSLR, my own. I invested $20,000 of my own money, my own savings. That was supposed to go towards the house. Thank you for having a great fiance, Ashley. I love you. Basically, she gave me she's like, this might be your only shot. You just had a daughter. She's I think 5 months now, and she was like, it's now or never. And at that time, I was debating whether to go back and work full time in advertising or really pursue starting my own production company. So, I just decided that now was the time. My daughter, you can't get more inspired than having a newborn baby. That's
a big motivation.
It's like that movie, The Lion King, when it's like, "Angels are alive," and when she first, when I first had her, I held her up like she was Simba. That's a true story, and that feeling is amazing as a father, as a first-time father. So, so I went from my own funds. It got me far enough to produce a lot of the visuals that you see on Kickstarter.
That's where you got the trailers from.
That's right.
Okay.
I shot that on my own.
Okay.
With my fiance, and then until I met a guy named Nicky Milo, he'll be the director of photography for the film. He shoots on the red, very professional dude, and he's basically my business partner now. We are basically doing this together and collaborating on this project. But then in hopes of more projects in the future, we're opening up the Filmic Factory in San Diego to really pursue other productions. But back to Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a great tool basically for people who want to fund, and it's not just films, other projects. People fund Blue Jeans, radio shows, other kinds of television shows, and all the other kinds of things. And film. For film, it's great because there's already a community built in, ready to see the film. They have all the different film categories: horror, narrative. Film.
Oh, so Kickstarter does lean more towards film fundraising as opposed to Indiegogo, which may be more products.
Actually, I don't know. I think it's mixed. It's varied. But I will say.
But the Kickstarter inside has a whole thing set up for film funding.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. All right.
And you can set up tier rewards for certain type of donation, anything from $1 all the way up to $10,000. Different types of rewards. Doing the music is my brother-in-law. His name is Ryan Walker. He's in a band called Imagine Dragons. They're actually a pretty big band, but we offer awards from him. It could be anything from a Google Hangout session to maybe learning how to compose a song and stuff of that nature. And then also, we gave away a guitar that he'll autograph and things of that nature. So, and then we also have a T-shirt giveaway, which if you do that $75 donation, we actually will using. Plus One Water will donate a case of water to a local charity for the domestically abused, for victims of domestic abuse.
That's interesting. So you make a deal with the water company that says if I raise so much money, because it's publicity and good deed for them.
Yep.
They are not associated with the film, except that they're going to donate a product on your name.
Exactly. In your name to a charity. And then, we did a T-shirt that goes with it with Fortune 421, Jason Herrick's clothing company. And it was just a great little promotion just to let people know that, not all this fund has to go to us. Some of it can go to charitable purposes. And that's the purpose of Kickstarter. You can create these rewards and people can choose how to help you, but then also how to get something out of it as well.
Now, you're a regular film company. You're not a
charity.
Not a tax-free, what do you call it?
Non-profit.
You're not a non-profit.
Yeah, we're not a non-profit.
Okay.
We're operating as a
and that's
film
okay.
company.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with capitalism. We like capitalism here. But you could set up a non-profit on Kickstarter as well. There's different ways to do it. Okay.
You can.
So is there sort of any minimum that somebody has to give, or
The minimum is $1.
Minimum
And,
is
and I
$1.
try to stress it more times than none to friends and family. Like everyone feels like, oh, I can't give $1. It's embarrassing. But I'd rather you give $1 than give nothing.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
If
Yeah,
all
fair,
our
yeah, fair.
securityguyradio.com listeners gave $1,
I'd be fully funded up,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
yeah, you would be actually. We have almost
Yeah.
9,000 listeners. All right,
yeah,
please let's give Dave a buck. Can everybody give him a buck? Well, I'd give him $1.
yeah. Should get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? Just Kickstarter.com.
Kickstarter.com. And how do we
And then,
find you
yeah,
on
how do-
Kickstarter.com?
So on Kickstarter.com, you can actually just search David Arthur Clark. Obviously, I'll pop right up. You can also search the trees, but I think there's other things called trees.
you be
something.
careful. You might be
Yeah.
funding
Yeah.
redwood
Yeah.
planting
Yeah.
or something.
So David Arthur Clark, just search that on Kickstarter.com.
Or the trees, the film,
Or the
something.
tree, yeah, or Facebook.com/The Trees Movie. Like I said, we're on Instagram, The Trees Movie, and Twitter, The Trees Movie, which all has links back to the Kickstarter campaign. So it's very easy to find. Filmicpictures.com is my company website, which also has. We actually have a widget that shows the donation amount that we're at, and also the video and stuff. So there's links to get to the Kickstarter there. But yeah, so
When's the campaign end, by the way?
campaign ends in 3 days.
Now, when you say
So
it
it's-
ends, if you don't get the money, you got to give it back if you don't raise enough?
We don't give it back. No one gets charged. No one's gotten charged yet. You don't get charged unless we're successfully funded.
Oh, now that's good because that makes you feel better, doesn't it?
Yep.
In other
So,
words,
so when you set up this Kickstarter thing, you've got to have a certain amount that you're going for.
Yeah, I have a $50,000 campaign goal.
Okay.
Right
Could you
now-
have done less?
You can do any amount
Okay.
you want. Like I said, I'm doing a feature film, and I try to be most realistic with the most small amount that we can actually make this
Sure.
film for.
Yeah.
Because we're already reaching out to, and we actually got reached out to by marquee actors that are in some of the top grossing films and some of the top television shows are already contacting us about being in the film. So once the funding goal is reached, we can start drafting contracts and getting a A-lister possibly to
Right.
play a supporting role, which I think we definitely need going into a place or trying to get into a place like Sundance.
okay, so if we don't make your $50,000 goal, then nobody gets charged.
Nobody gets charged.
Can you keep the campaign going? You have to start it over again? What do you
You have to start over again, but that's probably not in the cards.
do? Oh, really? That's too bad.
It's unfortunate. I've read a lot of articles about people who tried. Some of them go over to Indiegogo or try
Right.
to change it up. But you got to remember, like you're reaching out about a very passionate project, and it's very hard to raise money. And I didn't realize how hard it was. But
Yeah.
you have to call people personally, and you have to, and I hate when people overpost things on Facebook. Unfortunately, you really got to share what you're doing because
Yeah.
people are busy. People have their lives. They have their jobs. It's their hard-earned money you're asking for.
Yeah.
And I never personally like asking people for money, so I try to say, share it, but check it out because if you might like it or might appreciate it and want to give. But at the very least, share it to your network because at the very least, you can be exposed to someone who does want to donate.
Well, it's an odd feeling. I spend, 2 or 3 hours a day on the social media stuff?
Yeah.
I'm always making a new campaign or something like that. And it's a lot of work, and it's a weird feeling to self-promote, for lack of a better word, right?
Mm-hmm.
But eventually your brain kind of clicks over and you go, I'm not promoting myself, I'm promoting the concept. And really that's what it becomes.
Yeah.
But I think what I missed out is I never asked anybody for money. Is that what we're doing wrong? We don't actually ask anybody to pay us. We should say, you want to come on the show, you got to pay me. Or if you want to do a 30-second commercial, it's $100. It is $100 a week, by the way. Send us some money. And we'll charge you for some commercials. But I know what you're saying.
Yep.
You have to step outside yourself and understand that you're passionate about the project. It's not about it's about the concept. And
Yeah,
the
but
idea.
you're not asking money for yourself. You're asking money for the
No, but it
project.
feels that way. I mean, if I
Yeah.
start asking people to advertise on my show, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm asking for money for me, but I'm asking for money for the show.
Yeah.
And really
Yeah.
quickly, what I want to just touch on, just to make sure that I cover it, is because people have been donating, because I think we're almost at 38,000, so
Right.
we're about $11,000, $12,000 away from the goal. It attracted people like I said, like Lyndon Durham and Shelley Brannon, who's a very young actress, only 9, and has about 20 features under her belt. She's in film.
20.
Now, how did she hear about it?
Her father actually, he reached out to me about, he was a fan of the Kickstarter campaign,
Okay.
and he basically told me to basically take a look at some of his daughter's work. Because he knew that the film was about a family. His daughter is actually mixed white and Filipino, and she could definitely pass as my daughter. She looks like my actual daughter, like an older version. So it kind of worked out perfectly. And she's very, like I said, very talented. She's on a TV show. She's on 20 plus films. You can't ask for better talent than that to play a little girl, especially a little girl who's going to be a pivotal role in the film. So like I said, the funds have helped us, produce behind the scenes footage. It got people excited and wanting to lend their time before actual filming.
So we got 2 minutes. So your goal, if we get you, I want to get your goal. We're going to help you do that because listen, my 9,000 listeners, send them a buck, $1. I got. You know what? Here's the way. so we can get 1, 2, 3. All right. So John, Jenny, Angel, Robert, Amy, Joey, Dennis, Donnie, Debbie, Harmony, Janice, Joanne, Jaylene.
Brady Bunch.
That's my brothers and sisters I
amazing.
just named off. I want them to all send a
I'm
dollar.
surprised you can remember all that.
I know it is, right? So now you'll get, if they all send you $1, you'll get $12
Okay.
out of that. So that's a start, right?
Yeah, it's a
just
start.
8,000 something more
But
to
they
go.
might be compelled and want the T-shirt and the charity.
Oh, so it's a little kickback on Kickstart to do it.
Yeah.
No, really, everybody should log into Kickstarter.com and look for David
Arthur Clark.
Clark
Yep.
and the trees and see if we can get this funded. It'd be kind of cool to be a part of that.
Yeah,
Help
and,
you get that done.
and like I said, at the very least, you can share it out to your network, because I found that very successful. When people share it
Yeah,
out to
yeah,
the network, you got a lot of people who appreciate film, who appreciate independent film, who appreciate Kickstarter as a funding mechanism. So
Well, I think
especially
Hollywood-
the subject as well.
Well,
This
and
is what
Hollywood
we're
better be
about.
careful because this
know.
could put them out of business.
Yeah.
They're not a bank
Yeah.
anymore. They don't,
Yeah.
they don't
That's
need
true.
them for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Dave, we're out of time. You gonna
yeah,
come back?
I will come back.
Why don't you call us next Monday and let us know what happened?
I will. I
We'll
mean,
be
yeah.
doing a show.
Yeah, we need to know.
I'll either be under a rock hiding from the world, and no, this movie will get made, even if I have to shoot it on my own camera.
I know it will. I believe that about you. All right, well, tune in next week because I will be at the Police Academy next
Yes.
week for my
Yes.
3-week recertification.
Yeah, I'm
We
waiting,
will-
to see, I'm waiting to see all the injuries.
We'll be the only post-certified radio station that can actually arrest you if you come to our studio. So tune in next week at Security Guy Radio. That's securityguy.radio.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Google+. Good night.
Cheers.